think I'm just now realizing how close to Saturday Night Live opening night live is for Gamescom. Let's talk. What up, viewers? What up? What up? Calc Soups here, and today is Friday, August 23rd, and that means it's time for a quick recap of the week in video game news. Like I said, the big thing happening this week is the autumn Keeleys are happening. So Jeff Keighley puts on opening night live for Gamescom, and he's finally embracing his role as a talking head and kind of leaving it to like smaller presentations, less celebrity cameos, and just kind of a little bit more tight and condensed. So this opening night live was just under 2 hours, which is still a little long for a game trailer showcase, but you can watch that at your leisure and still kind of be double screening that and watching it. But yeah, there was a lot of things that coming in from Gamescom that I wanted to talk about. They started off pretty strong by showcasing the new Borderlands 4 trailer, well, teaser. Apparently, Randy Pitchford was like tweeting afterwards saying like there's a bunch of like hidden information in that like 15-second teaser or whatever. Which, as far as like the meta narrative of Borderlands, like I'm not really too caught up in that right now, and I've seen a lot of articles talking about whether or not this is poorly timed or somewhat saves the franchise, considering the movie is being so poorly received. But I am excited for Borderlands 4. Not necessarily for the plot, but always happy to kind of jump in to catch a ride with my friends and jump in and shoot some crazy stuff in a Borderlands game. So I am excited for the next Borderlands game, and I'm glad it's not Tiny Tina Wonderlands 2, because I feel like that didn't quite have the pull that like a Borderlands did for like Borderlands 2 and 3 did with my friend group. But yeah, that's probably a way too much way too much breakdown for Borderlands, considering we only saw like 15 seconds of the trailer. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Borderlands 4. Moving right along, Don't Nod's next game, the developers of Life is Strange and several other kind of episodic games, has a new one coming out called Lost Records, which actually looks pretty cool, and it's got all that same kind of Life is Strange Don't Nod flavor sprinkled on top, where it's got like a really cool, northwestern soundtrack, and it's all about these kids like partying in the woods, and then something potentially supernatural happens, and then we got to figure out how to solve whatever the mystery is. And so yeah, I really love Don't Nod games, and so this next one, Lost Records, will definitely pique my interest and keep me engaged and looking forward to whatever their next one is. We got a little bit, just a small teaser of Space Marine 2. I know that the game is only like two weeks away from launch, so I wasn't expecting too much, and I didn't get too much. So I thought it was a little interesting that all we got was like a 30-second teaser for a game, that should be capable of showing us like 5 minutes of gameplay. But yeah, I only saw 30 seconds, so a little disappointed. But I will be playing Space Marine in the coming weeks, so looking forward to that. Obviously, the big one that caught my eye, I even watched it before I watched the whole stream, was Dune Awakening. They're already starting to talk about like the MMO and a lot of the different features, and we get to see a lot of like gameplay and how you might spec and what your character looks like, and kind of how you build your character. I thought it looked a little Far Cry-y in that like you and your friends kind of take over like bases and are gathering resources, and there's a lot of guns, which like I'm starting to realize like is that why I got into like the Dune series? I like the Dune series because it's so cerebral, and like a lot of that's not going to come across with you just like running around in the desert. I am curious if it's going to enter like a new worlds phase where like it's all very focused on like you got to be in a guild, you got to be doing PvP as much as possible, and I don't know if like the gear determines the character, or the character determines what gear you want. And then some of the base building stuff seemed a little interesting. Like it's super high tech sci-fi, so it's just like, oh, you're gonna have 3D printers in every corner of the house, just like 3D print the stuff you need, and like I'm curious how much diversity there's gonna be in like what you're gonna be able to build, that's like functional in your house, like actually performing game functions and not just like looking nice. So Yeah, we saw like 5 minutes of gameplay. It started spinning up a lot of wheels for me, and I'm curious. Um, I'm also curious what like a single player experience is going to be like for that. Like, is it going to be like I have to be in a house, or else my house is going to get pooped on every day by randos? Like, how how's that gonna break down? And is it just gonna be like Rust, where like if you don't have super ultra gear, you're just gonna get capped every time you step out of your house. So yeah, I'm curious. Well, yeah, the MMO aspect is always something that is kind of uh, made me a little bit wary of Dune Awakening, but so I am hopeful that they'll do like private servers, and so me and my friends can just hop on whenever we want and build out our base and explore Arrakis at our leisure, and don't have to deal with any of this kind of like PvP stuff. But don't know that that's necessarily what they're gonna do, considering they're slapping the MMO tag all over it. But that's what my thoughts on Dune Awakening. I think they're gonna. It sounds like they're gonna enter uh, early access early next year. So looking forward to that. Finally, we are getting a true sequel to Monster Hunter Worlds with Monster Hunter Wilds. This one is coming out on all the platforms you would expect it to be coming out on, all the same platforms that Monster Hunter Worlds came out on, and hopefully with the the upgraded consoles, we're gonna have more crazy stuff that we can do, and again, it's just gonna depend on me and my friends getting on and wanting to go kill monsters together. So I know that not a lot of us got into God, what was the Switch one? Monster Hunter Rise. So like I think Monster Hunter Wilds will bring all the same people that I played Monster Hunter Worlds in. And we'll be able to play and hop in on that. So I'm very excited for Monster Hunter Wilds. Sid Meier keeps cranking out games, and it's been a good, I don't know, 8 years since Civ 6 came out, so it's time for Civ 7 to come out and tell us similar DLCs to like adding new factions and adding new, cultural win scenarios and all that kind of stuff. So I am kind of curious how they keep innovating the 4X genre, like that continues to be pushed by non-civilization games, but I think Civ kind of sets the standard, and then everybody kind of builds off of that. So I am curious what we can see and do in the next civilization game. I've got a bunch of friends who play that as well. And last but not least, the one that caught my eye, I am a closeted Peter Molyneux fan. I don't really talk about it much, but I am a massive fan of the Fable series. Not not a, not his selling of the series, but the actual series itself. And he's got a new God game, as they call it, or kind of a city builder strategy, defensive game called Masters of Albion. I think it had a lot of really cool features where you can like personalize and what your town is eating, so you can like go down into the chopping up vegetables and making meals for people. You can also go into like a third person mode and like play as the hero defending the town, and you can upgrade that hero and give them gear, but then also switch back straight from that third person mode back into like the city building mode. So very interesting stuff. I always like the like zoom in zoom out stuff that you can do, and as long as it feels very uh, very kind of fleshed out. I know it for a moment there it felt like okay, I can just go into third person view and like hit a button and watch my character swing. Like hopefully there's a little bit more depth there than just pressing a button and watching things happen, and there's some sense of complexity and tailoring your heroes to fighting off certain enemy types, and then what do I do when other enemies spawn or whatever. So all in all, I am looking forward to Masters of Albion. So this was just my half dozen or so titles that kind of came out that I'm excited for. There's anything that you feel I forgot from opening night live that I should be keeping my eye on, feel free to leave a comment down below. But yeah, there's a bunch of games coming out, and a lot more than I originally anticipated. I know that we're out of the summer gaming drought, and so now we got games coming out, and I'm excited to get my hands on all of those. Vermintide 2. I haven't talked about this game in quite some time, but I did enjoy my time playing Vermintide 2. And there's a new PvP mode that's coming in to kind of really spice things up. So much like your Left 4 Dead's, there will be a PvP mode where a player will be able to join into your like cooperative session, and they will take control of some of the specialty vermin, Scraven, that and be able to, like, see how you react, and pick the exact right time to pounce on you with an assassin, or take control of the tanky lumbering one as it charges into the team at the exact wrong time while they're already getting somewhat overwhelmed. So, or the chain gunner or the Giselle shooter. So yeah, I think that uh, most people jump onto the Left 4 Dead train, like Left 4 Dead likes, for that PvP mode. So the fact that it's been several years since Vermintide 2 came out and we're just now getting it is a little bit behind the times, but hopefully this brings some people back. We see a good spike in that community for that. Speaking of sequels, Splitgate, which I didn't even think was that old at this point, has already got a sequel that's being worked on, and it's already in closed alpha, and we're starting to see some of the improvements that they've made from Halo with portals, which is what we colloquially called Splitgate, the first one. And yeah, it's already in closed alpha, so we're already, we could be within the next year being kind of a 1.0. I don't know how long it'll be in early access or whatever, but yeah, they're already working on a second one. It seems like they've improved the portal system, so it's not like two separate triggers. It's all controlled by a single button press, and yeah, it's pretty interesting, the kind of they're building on top of it. I wouldn't think of Splitgate, in an arena shooter with portals, like being something that had a sequel, and needed to make improvements in a full blown sequel as opposed to just a post launch update. But yeah, they're building a second one, and they wanted people to check that out. So I'll have a link down below. You can check out and get some impressions on Splitgate 2. We talked a little last week about the big surprise coming down the pipe with Black Myth Wukong. It was the #1 wishlisted game on Steam for a while now. And now that the game is finally launched, it launched with like an 82 Metacritic, which we talked about last week, which is pretty good. And people were saying like it's fun. It's not necessarily above and beyond what we would normally expect from like a Souls like, but there's enough there that people have been enjoying it, and quite a lot of people actually. So it reached a peak concurrent player count of 2.2 million, which is the second highest concurrent player count recorded by Steam. The first of which is PlayerUnknown Battleground, PUBG. Had 3.6, I believe, at one point at its peak kind of player count. So Black Myth Wukong is now below that, and I've already started to see the articles about selling millions of copies. And the interesting part is just how much it's skewed Chinese. Like I know the game is developed and published by a Chinese publisher and developer, and a lot of the reviews, like 90% of the reviews, are written in Chinese. So I think this is, of those millions of units that are being sold, I'm curious. I don't know that it's exactly 1-for-1 on like review ratio to player territory purchasing, but the fact that it is so heavily skewed in China, and it's very difficult actually to like get games launched in China that aren't already based in China. So this kind of shows, if you have that foothold or are a native Chinese developer, how much just being able to sell in China is a boon. So not that to detract from it, nor otherwise being a really good game, but the fact that they're in China, that's a massive market that generates a lot of units of revenue. That definitely is going to help that number, which is all I was trying to get at. So good on Black Myth Wukong for the great opening week, and excited to see a little bit more about what's coming out for that. Speaking again of sequels, one of the sequels I was looking forward to most this year, actually probably the sequel I was looking forward to the most this year was Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. They've been, the Chinese room has been slowly releasing dev diaries over the past several months, or at least over this year. And the last one was, I think, like in June or so, around E3 timeframe, and they were like very certain that they were going to launch, end of this year. But the dev diary this week around Gamescom, talking about all the systems they want to build on and how they want to make better endings and continue to polish. That ultimately leads to they are delaying the game into 2022. Hopefully not too, or 2022, 2025. Hopefully not too long into 2025. If they were expecting kind of a Q1 or a Q4 release, hopefully this isn't like outside of Q1. Although I assume not a lot of dev hours are happening around Christmas, and hopefully no crunch is happening. But yeah, I'm looking forward to whenever they get it to me. I'm gonna love the heck out of it. So looking forward to Bloodlines 2 when I can play that in 2025. World of Warcraft is celebrating 20 years. My God, it's been around for 20 years now. That's just crazy to think about. And SteelSeries is putting out some anniversary accessories. One of which was like a set of headphones that looked really cool. It has the like World of Warcraft W on it, which is like so iconic and like burned into my brain. Like if you just said I was putting the letter W on a set of headphones, I would instantly imagine the World of Warcraft kind of, very sharp W with like the yellow and gold. And yeah, they put it on a set of headphones, which I already like SteelSeries headphones. So the fact that it has World of Warcraft on it makes it all the more likely for me to buy. There was a couple other products kind of in this line to celebrate World of Warcraft turning 20 this year. Was it an October release? I'm trying to remember all the way back to 2004 when I first started playing World of Warcraft. When was it? And I think it was like a school year had started. Like I think I was going into high school, so was I like coming home from my first several weeks of high school? Yeah, I thought it would. I'm curious. I'll have to look up what the exact date for World of Warcraft release was, but yeah, congratulations to 20 years to World of Warcraft, and yeah, you can check out some of the products that SteelSeries is putting out to celebrate that anniversary. You can buy all of the main line and even some additional Resident Evil games in the latest Resident Evil Humble Bundle, so all of them for just $30. You'll get every single numbered Resident Evil game, as well as like Revelations, which I think is that the is that like the PvP one or the one that takes place in a high school? The asymmetrical horror game. I think that was one of them. There's I think another one that's kind of not typically included in the mainline Resident Evil games, but is included in this Humble Bundle. So you can get a lot of Resident Evil games, if not all of them, for $30 at Humble Bundle. And again, most of those proceeds go to charity. So also you can be supporting charities as well and pick up all of the Resident Evil slate for all the Resident Evil catalog titles. So yeah, I think I own a lot of them. Some of them on PlayStation, some of them on PC. So I could kind of consolidate those all onto one platform potentially with this Humble Bundle. So I'll be checking that out in the next couple weeks. If you didn't get enough cult management in your Cult of the Lamb game, then there's a new game coming down the pipe called Worshippers of Cthulhu, and this one is more of a city builder, where you're also building up a cult and trying to bring forth the Cthulian apocalypse. Yeah, you're like building up. You're like, I don't know if you're like corrupting cities in like taking over of city buildings in the city builder, or if you're like actually building up like altars and like people farms. I don't know, for like sacrifices or whatever. But yeah, I think a lot of me and my friends, when we reviewed Cult of the Lambs, were like, hey, I'd really like more of the cult part of Cult of the Lambs and less of maybe the roguelike portion, which maybe Worshippers of Cthulhu will be that game that strikes that itch for us. So I'll be definitely checking that out. And then last but not least for this week, saw a kind of punk-themed roguelike called Redacted coming out from a studio I know very closely. Striking Distance is the developers who did the Callisto Protocol, owned by Krafton, the PUBG company, or the PUBG uh, publisher. And so, yeah, I was excited to kind of see a roguelike twin stick shooter, and like they had a really cool in what we saw of like the gameplay, like when your character dies they get resurrected and like as a zombie, and then like if you get to that point again, you'll have to fight them, and it's always going to be like a temperature gauge. I don't know if you'll actually like collect your souls like you would think of in like a Dark Souls-y sense, but it's kind of cool to like have to fight off the dead version of yourself in your successive roguelike runs. So yeah, it all added up to kind of the art style is very kind of two-tone, almost cell shaded kind of view. So yeah, and again, it was from a studio that is near and dear to me. So yeah, looking forward to. And it's only been 3 years, I guess. Yeah, 3 years since the Callisto Protocol. So it's about the time it would probably take to develop a roguelike of this kind of size. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what's coming out of Striking Distance Studios on Redacted. That's it for this week. Let me know down below if you feel I forgot anything, if there's any other opening night live titles I should be keeping on my radar. But as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy this content. Any of the people on my email distribution, continue to email me. I am looking forward to getting back to those, and always looking forward to talking to people via that or any other ways of engagement are always appreciated. My link to my Discord will be down below, and always happy to talk video game news there or anywhere else I post this newsletter. But thanks again. I hope you have a super day. I hope you have a super weekend. And I hope you have a super day. Bye.